everyone, and welcome back to the Not Fam channel. Today I am going to be announcing the winner of the giveaway for the 4 free movie tickets. So that will be towards the end of the video. So in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing EF Tour's Grand Tour of Italy. I will also be sharing a few tips with you guys. So if you're a teacher traveling with EF Tours for the first time, my first suggestion would be that if you have more than 6 people traveling with you, that I would designate one chaperone for every 6 students and kind of have like a little routine set up where you guys do a count off at every single location, so that way you guys know that everyone is with your group and that no one is missing. So for example, you should say like Sagasume 1 through 6, count off 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. So that way they know that, okay, now it's my turn to count. I'm number 3. I'm gonna say number 3, and if we're missing number 4, then we can go ahead and go look for number 4. My second tip would be to do a passport check before leaving the hotel and going on to a new destination. The reason why you should do a passport check is to see if A, your kids have their passports, and B, so that way you know that they have their passport in case a situation were to arise and they lose their passport, you know when they had it last. And make sure that they put it away in a safe location, whether it be stored in their luggage very safely, or if they have one of those belts that they put around, those travel belts, and make sure that they're secure. My third tip would be, if you're traveling on very hot months, make sure that you guys bring like a hydro flask or something like that. My husband and I also brought cooling towels, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I didn't bring a cooling towel. I didn't even think of that. So those are the 2 things that I would bring if you are traveling on hot months. A cooling towel and a water bottle that's refillable, hydro flask or something like that you guys can refill, and that way you're not spending so much money on water, just because it does tend to add up. €1 is not the equivalent of $1, so it does add up and it does become pricey. So I would suggest those 2 things. Another tip that I would suggest for first-time teachers going on an EF tour would be to buy a thank you card for your tour director as well as your bus driver, and then put in the tip money in that, so that way you have your kids all sign it saying a thank you, and as well as, you know, you're giving your tips to your tour director and bus driver at the same time. So it's a nice gesture. So I highly recommend doing that. So another tip that I would suggest is setting expectations with your students or your kids that are traveling with you. The reason why I suggest doing this is not only will you address certain things and issues such as, you know, disturbances on floors when people are sleeping, you guys aren't making a huge, you know, a whole lot of noise. But also you can set the expectation of nobody's drinking on this trip if you guys are not allowing that. Also, you can remind students about souvenirs and picking souvenirs, just because even though most countries allow 18-year-olds to drink legally, once you're back at the States and let's say that you bring a souvenir like a wine or something like that, you cannot, an 18-year-old cannot declare that in the US, because 21 years of age is the legal drinking age in the US. So to avoid anything at customs like being stopped, or let's say something worse with your kids, I would highly suggest that you let your kids know to buy souvenirs for their parents that are not alcohol, especially for the kids that are 18 and are legally allowed to drink in those countries, but will not be able to declare that they brought something like that back to the US. Those are my tips for first-time teachers that are traveling to Europe. I know that I had those headaches my first time traveling. So these are my experiences sharing with you so that way you guys have an easier transition to your trip and are able to enjoy it a little bit better. Okay, so let's break it down. EF tours. What is this? What do they do? Sort of thing. So when I was in high school, I actually took my first trip to Europe with EF tours. That's why when I became a teacher, that was the first thing I looked for. Something that was familiar to me, and I was able to recognize as, okay, when I went on my trip, I felt safe. The room accommodations, everything was good. So I looked back to that when I was choosing a tour company to travel with this time around. So I went with EF Tours, and on top of that, they were the most price friendly compared to other travel sites. So I chose to take the Grand Tour of Italy trip with Education First, or EF. So the reason why I chose Italy was because a lot of my students, when they think of travel, they think of Europe, and the most popular places for kids to travel or want to travel when I do places that you want to visit is like Greece, Italy, London, things like that, Spain, so mostly Europe. So this is the reason why I decided to do Italy. Now, the reason I chose the Grand Tour of Italy is because you get like this in-depth excursion of so many Italian places in such a short amount of time. So the pros about traveling with EF are that it's cost effective, so you're not going to be spending as much as other travel companies. The second pro about EF is that you can get so many things with EF, like you can get high school credit, you can also earn college credit, and EF also offers dual immersion travel plans where you're speaking the other language if you choose that option. However, ours was not one of those dual immersions. It was just a 10-day travel to Italy, the Grand Tour of Italy. So we got to see many cities in 10 days. So we got to see like Venice, Rome, Florence, Capri as our excursion. And I have to say that Capri was one of my favorites. So we got to see so many cities in such a short amount of time. And I think that's one of the pros about going with EF is that they have an itinerary that's set for you. And so you don't have to worry about, oh, how are we going to get tickets to get onto the gondola? Or how are we going to, have enough time to take this bus from here? How am I going to accommodate my group? Things of that sort. So everything is already planned out for you. So it's pretty much once you get to your destination that it's stress-free in a sense, where a tour director takes you guys to all the places that you need to see. They're the ones that are taking care of buying the tickets, so on and so forth, because they are locals. And that is another pro about EF, is that they hire locals to be your tour director. So the person that we had on our tour was a local from Rome. She was born there, she was raised there, and she lived there. So she kind of gave us like the secrets and all that stuff, the little guided tours that we really enjoyed. Now, here are the cons about traveling with EF. So the first con I would say is the location of hotels. If you do not do a hotel upgrade, then you are going to be staying somewhat far from the destination that you are going to be sightseeing in. So for example, we the first day stayed in Venice, but we weren't in smack dab middle of Venice. We were on the outskirts of Venice. So we had, I would say, an hour and a half drive from our hotel to Venice, which we had to stop, get on a ferry, and then go to Venice. So I would say those are the main cons if you're traveling with EF. What you should expect is a lot of travel time on buses. If you guys are doing ferries, you might have some travel time on ferries. So I would say that's one of the cons. However, some people look at it as a pro just because it's some time, you know, to relax before you have a busy day, or to catch up on your sleep, or after, you know, you have your sightseeing tour, you get back on the bus, and then it's like a quick rest stop. So those are that's what I would say would be like a pro slash con travel time, but some people see it as a pro. Another thing that I would say is a con for EF, traveling with EF, would be, it kind of goes hand in hand with traveling, I would say. You know, you get to have lunch on your own because breakfast and dinner are included. However, if you are traveling, if you are doing a lot of travel time, it's going to be like a pit stop that you get lunch at. So it's not like you have the option after sightseeing or wherever you're sightseeing to get lunch. Most of the time, it will be like at wherever you're sightseeing that you get to have lunch. However, there are going to be a few times that the bus is going to stop like at a gas station. However, the gas stations in Italy are not like the gas stations here. They have like a full-on, you know, restaurant in them. So you will get the opportunity to go in, grab like a quick panini to eat or a quick snack, and then come back on the bus and then head off to wherever you're going. So I would say that's one of the cons as well, because you're not getting to actually experience the food and the quality of wherever you're visiting in some places. So just make sure to set that expectation that sometimes you are going to be having those rest stops at gas stations, and you know, you're gonna have to grab a quick sandwich, so on and so forth, and it's not gonna be a sit-down meal. Another con that I would say would be that some of the hotels were not prepared for the large group of students that EF was supplying with our Grand Tour of Italy tour. You know, it was 3 groups combined together. We had about 48 kids or so, give and take. And even though some locations said they have Wi-Fi, well, when you get 48 kids who are used to having Wi-Fi and everyone gets on at the same time, the Wi-Fi slows down quite a bit. So the Wi-Fi at the hotel might not be what they are used to back at home. So I would make sure to set that expectation with your kids and let them know that Wi-Fi is not going to be the same out there. They might not have Wi-Fi at all, which was the case in some hotels. And if it says that they might have a pool available, just make it known that they may or may not be able to use the pool. I know that this was the case in majority of the cases at the hotels where the students were not able to use the hotel pool. So just keep that in mind. That way the students understand that they may not be able to use it, and don't go in thinking that they will be able to use the pool, just because that sets them up for disappointment. Let's see. The meals. So breakfast was always provided, and like European breakfasts they are quite small. So granola, yogurt, croissants, some ham, cheese, prosciutto. Do not expect a huge breakfast, but dinners were amazing. You got a 3-course meal where the appetizer or the first plate was pasta. So for every meal we had pasta as our first plate, and I would say that the pasta that we were given at every place or location that we ate at was amazing. I never once disliked one of the pasta dishes. The second course would be like your meat, poultry, beef, pork. So in case you have some kids that have food allergies, make sure, or like are vegetarian, that you communicate that with the tour director as soon as possible, because A lot of these dishes have like beef, pork, not really chicken, but we were fed chicken a few times. So just keep that in mind. Most of the entrees as our main dish were okay. They were good. I would say there were about 1 or 2 places that a lot of people disliked just because the pork was too dry, or the veggies were not edible, things like that. They weren't cooked enough. So I would say just keep that in mind. And the third thing that we would get was a dessert. And the dessert was delicious as well. No one complained about the dessert. So I think the main entree was probably the one where if you have your likes and dislikes, you might not like that they serve pork, or you might like that they serve beef, things like that. So just keep that in mind when you guys are going out and experiencing Grand Tour of Italy as well. So that I would say is that you get to add these excursions onto your trip, and these excursions are what makes your trip a little bit better. So we did 2 excursions this time around to the Grand Tour of Italy. So we added on Pisa as our first excursion, and that was amazing. You know, even though we did have that travel time of like 1 hour just to get to Pisa, and then we got to Pisa, we got to take our pictures, we saw, you know, the Baptistry Church, and everything was amazing in Pisa. I wish we did have a little bit more time to eat something while we were at Pisa. I understand that maybe they have like 1 or 2 restaurants there that we can maybe grab a slice of pizza at, you know, whatnot, and so on and so forth. However, I did wish that we had like some time to grab something to eat, just because it was like already like 1 or 2 o'clock, and once we got back we were eating lunch pretty late, so it was probably like 3 or 4 by the time we got back to Florence. So we were eating a late lunch, and then dinner was like around 8 o'clock that day, because Italians have really late dinners. Our dinners, expect to have dinner like around 8 or 9 p.m. after sightseeing, so you might not have an opportunity to take a shower as well. So I would say that was a con as well. If anything, you might have 15 minutes or so in between. If you get lucky, maybe an hour to take a shower and get ready for dinner. However, most of the time it was going from sightseeing to dinner, so you didn't have that time to go take a shower or anything like that, and you were coming back all sweaty and gross, and you know, you were sitting down for a meal. So I think that's one of the cons as well. But going back to the pro, so we got to see Pisa. That was amazing. We got to take pictures of the Leaning Tower. That was cool as well. I highly suggest you know, if kids are gonna roam around on their own, I would say have them go in 2s using the buddy system, or if they have more than 2, then that's even better. So that way they can take photos of themselves, you know, with the Leaning Tower and so on and so forth. Pisa was the first excursion that we did, and it was really, really nice. So the second excursion that we added on was Capri. And I have to say that this was one of the favorites of the trip, because not only was it like a laid back island that we got to go to, but the students enjoyed it because they actually got to go swimming on one of the beaches in Capri, which they thought it was amazing, and they had a blast. They took their bathing suits, you know, they were ready for it, and after days of walking and sightseeing and all this stuff, it was one of the best times that they had. Not only did they get to swim at the beach in Capri, we also got like a tour of Capri, and you know, it was a sunny day, and all of a sudden it just started raining so hard. It was a downpour that got us soaked, so they got to experience that as well. So I would highly, highly recommend to tell your students that are going on this trip, or whatever trip you have planned, to take a raincoat, like a light raincoat that can be like packed up into like a small ball. Keep it in their backpack just in case something like that happens, where it's like an unexpected downpour, that they take out their raincoats and put it on, or have an umbrella or something like that, because weather is so unexpected sometimes that it just happens. So that's what I highly recommend. And if you are doing the Grand Tour of Italy, I would highly suggest that you include the Capri excursion. It is a tour highlight, I would say. So another excursion that we did was San Gimignano. Now, San Gimignano is in the Tuscany region, and we were not able to add this excursion on the web page. This was an excursion that our tour director gave us the option for once we got to Italy. You know, it was about 10 euros to travel there, and you know, the whole group said yes. It was a unanimous decision. So we ended up going to San Gimignano, and this was one of the favorites as well. They have the world's best gelato. Apparently they have two, like, you know, head-to-head stores that have the best gelato. So it's up to you to choose which one you want to go to and try. If you want to try both, then go ahead. They also have the Death and Torture Museum, which a lot of students enjoyed. They thought it was cool and they wanted to visit it. It also was a very light day, where it wasn't full of sightseeing tours. It was more so of the fact that you got to sightsee on your own. So you got a chance to experience discovering the town of San Gimignano on your own. And I think that's what students enjoyed as well, that free time to just go off on your own and explore. So San Gimignano, if you don't get a chance to visit, maybe talk to your tour director to see if that's possible at all. But I highly recommend that as well. If you guys have any more questions as to how my trip to Italy was with the Grand Tour of Italy, please comment below and feel free to ask any questions that you like regarding the trip, and I will answer them as much as I can. If you have any additional questions, feel free to contact EF. And if you guys are interested in traveling with EF does student tours where teachers take their students on these tours. They also have adult-based groups. So if you guys are, you know, older than a certain age and aren't in high school anymore, they do EF tours for that. They also do college break tours, where if you are a college student, then you get to go on these tours as well. And they also have the college gap, where let's say that you're not ready to go into college and you have like that little gap in between high school and college. They have those tours as well. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you guys next time. Adios! Guys, I forgot to mention who my winner was for the 4-ticket giveaway for any movie theater. So the winner of this giveaway was Stacy K. So congrats, Stacy. Thanks for watching the Nah Fam channel.